Hey y'all, today I am going to be talking about one of my new favorite cut flowers that I've recently been growing called Strawflowers. Now, Strawflowers are really hot in the wedding and event industry right now because the boho or bohemian styling is really popular, and Strawflowers really just have a really unique look and texture to them, and they come in a wide variety of colors. So they are hot in that wedding and event industry. But I recently started growing them because they're supposed to do really well in my area. They're very drought tolerant, and they're excellent as a cut flower and as a dried flower. So today I wanted to go through 5 different tips for growing Strawflowers. As always, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you know when my latest videos are up, and make sure you go over and check me out on TikTok. If you didn't know, I'm over on TikTok. Yes, I'm doing the best I can with all the younger ones on TikTok, but I really enjoy it. It's a cute little quick outlooks into what's going on in the gardening world for me, little anecdotes, things that bring you smiles throughout the day, super easy things to kind of follow on TikTok. So I am on TikTok under She's a Mad Gardener. Okay. This is my second time filming this video because I filmed through the whole thing just chatting it up and then realized I never hit the button to start recording. So I should be really good at it this next time around. Okay, so today we're talking about 5 tips for growing Strawflowers. I do want to preface this by saying that I grow all of my Strawflowers from seed. I do not purchase them from nurseries and then plant them in my garden. However, if you are someone who purchases them from nurseries and plants them in your garden, I would love to know any tips or tricks regarding that because it is a different process than growing them from seed. I love the fact that Strawflowers come in a wide variety of colors: whites, ivories, yellows, oranges, pinks, light pinks, dark pinks, reds, rust. I mean, wide variety of colors and tones. I think they're absolutely beautiful, and they make for a wonderful fresh cut flower and a wonderful dried flower as well. So you can get a wide variety of uses out of this one type of plant. The first tip I have for growing Strawflower is finding the right location for your Strawflower. They like full sun, meaning they need 6 to 8 hours of full sun every day. I have them in an area where they get sun starting at about between noon and 1 o'clock each day, and then they get sun until the sun sets. So obviously during the hotter parts of the summer, during the longer days, they can get anywhere from 8 to 9 hours of sun in one day. But obviously during the shorter times, they're getting about the 6 to 7 range. They do beautifully in that area, and I've been very happy with that process. I have seen some people say that they do need a little bit of shade at some point during the day, so I don't have them in an area where they're going to get sun from the moment the sun rises until the moment the sun sets. They're getting about 6 to 8 hours max. You also want to put them in a location with really great draining soil. Now, I live in the North Texas area, Zone 8A, and we have a lot of clay in our dirt. So anytime I am planting Strawflower seedlings, I try to dig out that area a little bit, throw away any of the clay, backfill it with backfill it with garden soil and compost. Typically I'll add some plant tone, and then I will plant my seedling there. I have found that they do beautifully with that combination. They are not going to grow well in clay soil, so you must remove some of that clay soil. The clay soil holds onto way too much water and causes the roots to rot. You definitely want to make sure that the water is draining away from these because they can be susceptible to root rot. My second tip for growing Strawflowers is making sure they have adequate airflow. They can be susceptible to powdery mildew. So I do like to allow between 6 and 8 inches between each plant so that wind and air can flow between the leaves and keep everything nice and healthy, keep the leaves drying off after rainstorms and things along those lines, but definitely space them out some so that they have some great airflow. I'm also not a fan of the way they look regarding their foliage. I love the flower. The foliage is very unattractive. They tend to be tall, wiry plants. So I like to plant them at the back of the landscape and plant something else in front that kind of hides the foliage of the Strawflowers. The next tip I have for growing Strawflower is to plant them at the correct time of year. Now, they typically prefer a soil of 65 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, so a warmer soil. So typically you're going to plant them after the last frost in your area. I typically start my seeds about 6 to 8 weeks ahead of time before my last frost, and then I get them out into the garden afterwards. I've also started seeds later and then transferred them out into the garden when the soil's even warmer, and that has worked fine for them. They've done great. I do have a current experiment going with Strawflowers where I planted them in the fall, and then I'm trying to overwinter them as a hardy annual. So typically they're fine until we get close to freezing temps, and then I go out and cover them. So far I have about half the seedlings have made it and half the seedlings have not. But I'll keep you guys updated on that experiment as the spring comes around, and we'll see how those plants did. The fourth tip I have for you for growing Strawflowers is pinching and cutting or deadheading the plant. You want to pinch back the plant at about between 4 and 6 inches of growth. You want to pinch back the main stem as close to the base of the plant as you can, still leaving some leaves so that it can have the opportunity to continue to grow. When you pinch back the stem, it forces the plant to send out multiple shoots and creates a bushier plant with more blooms. Now, it is really important on Strawflower to continue to cut and deadhead the plant. The more you cut the blooms from the plant, the more it will encourage blooms to grow. And I definitely found that to be definitely a success. The more I cut on those, the more blooms it was sending up. I typically on a plant, I want to cut as far down on the stem as I possibly can, still allowing some leaves to stay on each stem. And then where I make that cut, it typically sends out 2 shoots, so 2 more new flowers will come up from that cut. I love them for that situation. I love that they constantly give me floral blooms. They gave me blooms starting in May all the way until our first freeze in December. So wonderful, absolutely beautiful flowers that just keep on giving and giving. Now, you can choose to not pinch these back, and that's fine. If you do not pinch back the seedling, it will give you one main stem flower that will have one beautiful flower at the top of it. At that point in time, you can choose to cut far down in the stem and then force it to become bushier, but that's your choice. I prefer to pinch earlier on so that I have more flowers sooner. And the last tip I have for growing Strawflowers is harvesting at the correct time. There are 2 different times to harvest Strawflowers. You're going to harvest them at a particular time for fresh floral arrangements, and you're going to harvest them at a particular time for dried floral arrangements. Now, they do have a yellow center with lots of pollen, and the pollen can come out and it can get on tables and things like that. So typically if you're harvesting for fresh arrangements that you're going to be giving away to somebody else or utilizing for an event or something like that, you want to harvest the Strawflower when only 3 to 4 of the brackets, and those are basically the petals, when the 3 to 4 brackets have bloomed at that point in time. You do not want to harvest it once it's all the way open with all the yellow pollen everywhere. That's not the time to harvest it if you're going to be giving it away to somebody else. Now, I use all of my cut flowers for myself. The pollen doesn't bother me. I don't care. So I will harvest Strawflowers at any point in time because I love them. So I like the yellow centers. I think it looks great and the pollen doesn't bother me. So I have no problem harvesting them once the center is open and we're seeing the yellow portion of the Strawflower. Harvest times for fresh cut arrangements are just a personal choice, whether you're going to be giving them away to someone else, selling them, or utilizing them in your own home. Now, if you are cutting for dried flowers, for Strawflowers, I like to leave them on the stem as long as possible. And I like to harvest them when they're wide open because I think that's a beautiful look for a dried flower. So that's typically when I will harvest them for dried floral. Okay, so I'm actually in love with Strawflowers. I think they're fabulous. I definitely think there's a few quirks that aren't so great about them, such as the look of the foliage. It's not very pretty. So definitely if you are utilizing in a front landscape or as a design element, you want to have them towards the back of your beds and something in front of them to cover up the foliage. Their stems are not that attractive. They do tend to be top heavy. So they tend to have all these blooms at the top and then just a really thin stem all the way at the base. So sometimes they do do have to be staked, or you can use some type of netting to hold them up. It's really your preference. I tend to just let them go, and then if they have any struggles with falling over, I will resituate them with a single stake, and that's not been a problem whatsoever for me so far. I love the wide variety of colors. I like the punchiness of them. When you dry them as a dried flower, they don't lose very much of their color at all. So they really will maintain some of those bold, beautiful hues as they continue to dry, which is fabulous for me. I also love them because they're just a different texture. They're just a different look than what you typically see in a cut flower garden. With that being said, some people love them and some people hate them. They don't like the look of them at all, and that's completely understandable. They are a very unique texture. There's something different, and they are not a typical flower. I have found that lots of people love to touch them because of the straw flower, the straw kind of feel. They feel papery thin. They kind of have like an interesting sound to them. They are a fun, unique flower, and a lot of people like to touch them even if they don't like to grow them. Okay, I would love it if you have grown Strawflower. Let me know what varieties you're growing. I'm about to put up a series of pictures showing you what varieties I am growing. All the floral pictures that you've seen up to this point are flowers from my own garden. So these are all Strawflowers from my own garden, whether they're still on the plant, whether they're dried, or whether I'm utilizing them in flower arrangements. I've had so much fun with them. And as always, she's a mad gardener or decorator or anything else that she wants to be. Thanks, y'all.